Welcome to the Sales Pulse podcast, where we ditch the scripts and stop treating the sales conversation like it's still marketing. So I'm Marla Koupal, your sales fluency guide. So if you really want to have real sales conversations, or if your results are feeling a little stale, it may be time to learn something new or to freshen up those old skills. So join me here on the Sales Pulse podcast every Tuesday on your favorite app and get some tips that might just make your sales results turn the corner for more. Let's talk about something that happens very often. You lost the sale, and many of the people that I listen to, they lose the sale because they're still marketing. They want to rattle off everything they know about the product. And let's get real. We know that people, if they've approached us and they're wanting to know more, that we are now beyond marketing. We are into that space called sales. And this is now a two-way street. You don't need to attract anymore. You need to engage. Many of us are getting trained or tuned up on our sales skills. People are sharing with us more ways to say more. If I go out to Facebook or to LinkedIn and anybody's offering sales coaching, what I'm continuously seeing is that people just want us to learn more words. Whether it's NLP, NLPQ, you're an introvert, here's what you say. We all know in our basic humanness that it is not what we say. It is what we sense. It is how we adapt to the person in front of us. It is how we engage with them. So just because we have someone in front of us does not mean it's time for us to continue marketing and spamming them with more details. The only option you have right now is discovery. So what do I mean by discovery? Well, discovery is, let's find out what makes this person tick, this one person you have in front of you. So many of you have been marketing to your niche, right? Let's say your niche is 30 and 40-year-old moms and you're selling X. So when they approach you, you feel that they want X, so you just talk about X. But let's get real. Is that really the truth? So what do you want to know first? Let's make sure they aren't really looking for Z, but they thought your X might have the answer for them. Or maybe X is part of the answer they want. It's not the whole thing. So stop, take off the marketing hat, put on the sales hat, and just engage. So you're going to take a risk. You're going to look at the questions that you typically try to avoid because you don't want to open the buyer up to a lot of conversation, or you don't want to open the buyer up to too much of your time. Well, we'll talk later about this time thing because too many people have been taught to manage their time and control the buyer, and that's where you actually lose the sale. So let me get back to my point. When someone approaches you in your DM, by phone message, by text, or a response on a post, you don't have a buyer yet, but you have an interested person who potentially could be your buyer. First thing you want to ask is, what prompted you to connect? Or what did you see in my ad or my post that caught your attention? Why do we do that? Well, when we're marketing, we have 30 or 40 perspectives. We're trying to draw in the biggest crowd we can. But now you have a person in front of you. I call it the category of one buyer. This buyer is only going to buy according to how they see this item you have or this service you have fitting into their life. So there you have a category of one in front of you. Now, how do you discover more about that category of one? Well, you ask those simple questions. What caught your attention? What prompted you? And then sit back and be quiet. You listen. And then before you summarize anything they say, before you take anything they say and attach it to the value of a product, you say, tell me more. Because we always know there's more, right? You know how you've got the skin on the layer of the pudding that you've just made and you love eating that skin, but what's beneath it is something softer and more yummy? Well, that's the same thing that goes on with your buyer. There's something else going on. And so get beyond the skin. The first question is, what prompted you to connect? The second question is, tell me more. Now, in the tell me more, I know I can see a lot of you rolling your eyes already. You're saying, oh my God, but that'll take so much time. I promise you, those two questions, because you so focused on your buyer, you're losing any resistance that they may have come with. You're losing any hesitation that they had about, is this person going to be pushy? What are they going to be like? Whatever the history is that they had from their prior buying experiences, they just won't have those impressions because you're starting in a totally different space. You're starting in the listening space. When you start in the listening space, you are really, really letting them know that you're comfortable. You're not in urgent mode. You're not in sales mode. You are in just a get to know the buyer mode. Now, this process still works even if you're working with a CEO or a key decision maker in a company. It doesn't have to just be those one-on-one sales. But I'm really just speaking to the direct sellers right now. Now, you've stopped your conversation. You've stopped all your marketing stimulus, and now you're simply listening to the buyer. You're listening to what it is that made them act today to contact you, because they may have been thinking about this for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, but today they're taking action. You really want to know what prompted that action. So when you do that, the tell me more is going to give you the story, the history, the background that you need to know. Because they might say things like, well, my husband told me that I've been putting this off for too long. Okay. Do you know that that just means you had somebody else invited into the conversation, even though they're not present? So you got to remember the husband's involved. Second thing is why do they think that they've put it off? Well, don't ask them the why. Ask them what they've thought of or tried already, so that you also know what is out there in this scope of a solution they're looking for that maybe they've already discounted as possibility, or they tried it and it didn't work. Anytime you do those 3 questions that I just shared with you, you are going to drop the buyer's resistance. And now you know how to come on in and engage and initiate the suggestions that you have for them. So what I understand is you've been kind of putting this off. You really do want to get it done. Your husband's a little bit focused on this also now. So where do you think we should start? Do you want to know more about the product, or are you more interested in how you might be using this once you get it? So you have to just let them guide you. Well, the minute they ask you a question, you know where to start, and you will have the least amount of resistance in this conversation. Now, everything I just shared with you will take you less than 3 minutes. So if you're worried about time in a conversation, this is the most valuable 3 minutes that you could be spending. Why? Because most sales are made because this 3 minutes is the richest 3 minutes that you'll spend. And you actually have a buyer that will never really give you an objection. They'll give you a question. Now, I know many of you have been trained to see questions as objections. But the challenge here is that this potential buyer, they're really comfortable with you right now. So when they ask you a question, they're most likely thinking out loud. They're not in a situation where they're contemplating, can they afford it yet? Anything like this. They're saying, well, can I use it? Will I use it? What's going on? So if they ask you a question, it's most likely information you skipped and that was important to them. Not everyone is going to ask you questions right away, but it's a good start. So here's the situation. You're all out there marketing and really, really looking for buyers. And in fact, many salespeople are doing their own marketing nowadays. But you have to understand when you're in sales mode. I only want to offer in the information that that buyer needs. Remember, every buyer is in their own buying category. That category can have multiple facets. There could be an urgency to it. There could be no hurry. There could be, I need this to help someone else. I need this to help myself. You won't know any of those situations about what's driving them to move forward into a purchase until you ask. So define the parameters of that one person in front of you. And now have a one person category buying conversation. Create the buying space that's going to work for that particular buyer. So marketing is based on patterns. It's based on buying patterns. But remember, your buyer buys on their own timeline. They buy on their own logic. And they buy on their own emotional filters. And your conversation with those three questions are going to get you into that information. So here's three situations in which the sales moment was missed. So someone came up to one of the salespeople that I know, and they said, I'm curious about what you do. And immediately they spewed off features and benefits. And then that person slowly backed away from their vendor table and left. Why? Because they didn't do any discovery with the person. So if you're working a vending table and someone walks up and says, what do you have? You might say something very, very simple. What attracted you to come over and ask me that question? You've got a sign. You've got something on that sign. Something triggered them to come by. Most people are not curious unless something already caught their attention. So that's one situation. There's this persona trap that all of you have a tendency to always talk about the other people this worked for. But wait a minute, you've got a person in front of you. Did you not learn about them? So you can miss the person that you need to speak with, the one right in front of you, because you basically talk to her like she was a template, like every 40-year-old mom is the same. We know that's not the truth. And then there's this explorer, then you have the one who goes into the explainer spiral. They've got to tell you everything. So you overtalk and you overprove and you overshare. And you just lose the person because you just gaslighted them with too much information. They feel like they're a project, not a person. To fix your fluency in all sales conversations is to always ask with intention. If you're asking those questions, what brought you here today? What prompted you to connect? What prompted you to reach out? What intrigued you? You're definitely playing in the field called intention to know, intention to learn about the buyer in front of you. When people are telling you what they've already thought of or tried, well, then they really think you are interested. They feel you are interested. So if you can ask that question and not be in a hurry to hear what their response is, then I'll tell you next time how it is you assimilate that information into your presentation. We'll go into some examples. So remember, the minute someone connects with you, they are no longer a lead. They are a potential buyer. That's it for today, but I have a little assignment for you. What I want you to do is to think about something that could help you out. I want you to review the last 3 sales conversations you have. Run them back through your mind. Now, if you left any of those saying, oh gosh, that didn't work, or whatever the problem was, well, then you have to ask yourself this question. Did I stay in marketing mode too long? Did I even get into marketing mode? Keep following the Sales Pulse podcast. And if you want one more connection, you can find me on LinkedIn. I